We're exploring Sutras 30 and 31 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Book 2. Sutras 30 and 31 are to do with the first limb of yoga, Yama. And it's about not being self-indulgent. And this means not being dominated by our wants and our avoidances, our attachments and aversions, or what we can call our comfort zone. It's like a biological mechanism that moves away from discomfort into areas of comfort. This is how we are biologically. But spiritually we need to move away from that, because that biological need to move away from discomfort to comfort is what separates us. It's what gives us a sense of separate selfhood. And yoga is about going beyond that. And Sutras 30 and 31 spell this out in some detail. They're often understood as moral rules that a good person would follow. But really, we're having to look very deeply and understand our own tendencies towards comfort and the avoidance of discomfort. And this can be very subtle. It's not on a simple physical level. It's not only on a basic physical level. It's on an emotional and mental level as well. So bearing in mind that we're challenging the very basis for our individual selfhood, we have to understand Sutra 30 in terms of not indulging ourselves, not being self-indulgent. And this means not inflicting yourself on others. This is how we can understand the term ahimsa, which is traditionally understood as non-violence. We don't inflict ourselves on others because we're not expecting anything in the way of comfort from them. We are not looking for some kind of validation. We shouldn't need validation from others if we're in touch with our own essential awareness. We have to be honest about this. We have to look at how we are, our basic needs, and we have to look beyond our basic needs. Because essentially, when we look beyond our basic needs, we get to the true essence of what we are. Pure awareness. And pure awareness needs nothing. Certainly on a physical level we have our needs. We operate in different levels. And on certain levels it's appropriate to pursue certain needs. But spiritually we've gone beyond that as well. We must experience or get in touch with that part of ourselves which is beyond all that. And that part of ourselves is actually our true selves, which every other aspect of ourselves is actually a part of. So this is what we're getting back in touch with. This is what we have to discern. So we need to be very honest and look at all our urges, our drives, our tendencies to focus on out there and to look for satisfaction in out there. Now, we looked at the first three factors of not being self-indulgent. That was to do with ahimsa or non-violence, satya, truth, asteya, not stealing, not appropriating, and there's two other factors. And the next one is to do with sex. And the word here is Brahmacarya, which is sometimes translated as being with God. As if God would somehow not be happy about you doing sex. Some people will interpret this as enjoining us to be celibate. If you're naturally celibate and you're happy with that, that's great. Carry on being celibate. But there's certainly no point in imposing celibacy on yourself. You're just going to be giving yourself a very, very difficult time. Surely the ideal situation here is to be equanimous with respect to sex, to be sexually contented. If you have a partner that you're physically intimate with, then surely the ideal situation is to be enjoying sex with that partner, not in any neurotic way or any obsessive way. It's just part and parcel of everyday life. So you're not thinking about it all the time. It is a big one, this, especially if you're young and your hormones are kicking in and you've got spiritual aspirations, but at the same time you have this mighty surge of hormones which are driving you to distraction. I remember being asked by this by some young men once, some students of mine, and I had no advice for them because I know what it's like. You get in the grip of this thing and it's basically no more than a damage limitation exercise, and you just have to deal with it as best you can without inflicting yourself on others. Ideally, it's good if you can come to some kind of mutual arrangement with somebody, and the most straightforward way of doing that would be within a conventional relationship. And work towards sexual contentment. That might have to be your priority for a while. We just have to accept that. You might have to abandon any pretense of spiritual pursuit. But then again, don't let periodic obsessions with sex totally obscure spiritual practice. There are storms to be weathered. Storms pass, and when there's an opportunity for spiritual practice, you take it at the first opportunity. Keep at it. Don't write yourself off. No matter how far you might stray from your own spiritual understanding and practice, come back, come back. So let's not inflict celibacy on ourselves. If you want to try it, by all means try it. If you want to go in that direction, on you go. But if you're going to be struggling with it and be thinking about sex all the time, and that's going to be your main focus in the name of celibacy, well, that would be absurd. So what we're striving for here is equanimity with regards to sex. Sutra 38 says, being sexually contented frees up energy. We can invest a huge amount of energy in sex, in sexual pursuit and thinking about sex. To have that sorted is, well, it's a blessing basically. And the last aspect of this limb is Aparigraha, which is freedom from grasping or the urge to acquire. And that, again, this underpins the whole sense of this particular sutra with relation to the first limb. What we've got is this urge to get something from out there, something that will make us feel satisfied. Later on in Book 3, there's mention of the Kuruma Nadi, or the tortoise nadi. This is a particular psychic channel. But the idea is we draw in all our antennae, which are probing out there for something that we need. And we have to be aware of that tendency. Be aware of it even as you're listening to this. You're looking for meaning, for understanding. You're trying to form an opinion perhaps about what I'm saying, or you're just trying to understand what I'm saying. Well, you can forget all that. Just look at that need to understand, that need to get the picture. Because that's still the urge to acquire understanding, the urge to acquire spirituality or higher states of consciousness. What we need to do right now is look at that urge. You might even experience it in your body somewhere. Upper chest. It's like little daggers trying to stab something out there. Let's pull them all in and realize our own essential completeness. And this actually gives us the basis for interaction with others. When we realize we don't need anything from out there in order to feel complete in ourselves, well, then we can be free in the world. Then we can enjoy relationships. We can enjoy being alive. The sting of loss is blunted. Sutra 31 said, this is the chief intention at all levels, regardless of status, place, time and circumstance. So regardless of your role in society, perhaps you've got a role of some authority, perhaps not. Perhaps you're a boss, perhaps you're unemployed, perhaps you're single, perhaps you're in a relationship, perhaps you're loved, perhaps you're hated. Whatever the circumstances, whatever the place, whatever the time, and many of us have different roles at different times in different places. At home you might be a sibling, or a loved one, or a father, or a parent. Then at work you'll be somebody in a particular hierarchy, and then you're somebody else with relation to your friends and your enemies, and you're somebody as you're walking down the street. What kind of figure do you cut? Whatever the situation, you might just be by yourself. Whatever and wherever, we're looking for these little daggers, these little hooks that are trying to bring something from out there which is going to make us feel complete in ourselves. So this is about not being self-indulgent. Sutra 39 says, having no inclination to acquire anything, there is the perfect relationship with whatever arises. And whatever arises is whatever arises out there or in here. We're in a state of equanimous observation, what's sometimes called the witness state, watching, observing what arises, what passes away. But we're doing that from realization of our own awareness. The only alternative to self-indulging is to be in samadhi, which is that realization of our own awareness.